Today on Tune-In, we're talking education reform. This week, the House voted on the biggest piece of legislation in 14 years regarding education. We'll talk about that right after this.
Hi, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Here's your host, Representative Rick Crawford.
Hey, folks, we are back. Thanks for joining us again for another edition of Tune-In. We're talking higher education. The Every Student Succeeds Act. I shouldn't say higher education. This is K through 12. This is what affects all of us on a day-to-day basis and is the foundation for our educational experience for most of us. And that's what we're talking about, K through 12. And that hits me personally because when I have the opportunity, I actually take the kids to school. I've got a second grader and a fourth grader, and I go through Kline. And so I deal with this every day, and my wife deals with this every day, as a lot of you at home do. And I know that education is foremost, and as it should be, a priority, something that we want our kids to learn and grow in that K through 12 environment. And as I said, that's kind of the foundation for everything in success in life. So most everybody can tell you a story about sometimes an unpleasant experience in our public school system. And I don't say that to malign our educators, because they do a fantastic job, and it's a thankless job. I believe being an educator is a calling at every level, and if it's not, probably need to think about getting in another line of work, because I doubt anybody has ever said they're in education for the money. And that's unfortunate that that's the case, but we're dealing with, in most cases, some very dedicated individuals who are charged with the responsibility of teaching our children. And when I mention the experiences, those aren't necessarily bad experiences with the educators themselves, as much as is the policy that they're forced to deal with and the confines that they have to work in. And so we're addressing that problem. And one of the problems that I heard from the first time I got elected to now is that No Child Left Behind was, in fact, leaving a whole lot of children behind. And we're going to take up some legislation this week that is essentially a repeal of No Child Left Behind. It's a repeal and replace. It's been 14 years since No Child Left Behind was implemented. It's grossly out of date. I had the opportunity earlier this week to talk to Representative John Kline, who is the chairman of the Committee on Education and the Workforce. He's played a crucial role in both the House's original bill back in July and now as the conference process is taking place. Chairman Kline, thanks for being with us. I know this has been a long deal for you. You've been working on this for quite some time, certainly as long as I've been here. Can you give our folks at home in my district a top-down view of what this education bill does?
Well, that's what's important here. No Child Left Behind is the law of the land. People from coast to coast are very angry with No Child Left Behind because it was the largest intrusion of the federal government in K-12 education in our history. This bill is a reversal of that. We are restoring local control. We're putting parents and teachers and school boards and states back in charge. We're getting rid of the federally mandated high risk, high damage, if you will, tests that go in there. We're eliminating a whole lot of duplicative programs. We are moving responsibility back to the states and local governments where it belongs. And that's why this legislation is getting support across the spectrum of stakeholders, teachers, unions, superintendents, principals, school boards. They see it as a move in the right direction. I believe it's a move in the right direction. So I'm very excited that it's coming to the floor this week and we can replace No Child Left Behind.
Chairman, talk about Common Core and how this bill impacts that and how it affects the states.
This legislation, I think that's a very good point. This prohibits the federal government, anybody in the federal government, Secretary of Education or anybody else, from doing anything to incentivize Common Core. So it blocks that movement. If a state on its own wants to use Common Core as its standards, they're free to do that because it's not the place of the federal government to tell a state what they can or cannot do. But clearly the Common Core is not popular, and clearly the federal government was out of line in incentivizing, bribing, forcing states to adopt Common Core. We put a stop to that.
Thank you, Chairman Kline. I appreciate you taking time to be with us. Chairman Kline, who is the chairman of the House Committee on Education and the Workforce. I appreciate that. He's done a lot of work. We want to put the local control back into educating our children and put the states back in charge. That's great. Every Student Succeeds works to reject the Washington knows best approach, empowering the states, empowering the most relevant stakeholders, giving them the most meaningful, direct, and lasting impact on a child's life. And that's really the parents. We put the parents back in the driver's seat because, the parents are the ones that vote for local school board elections and so on. And this really empowers right down to the local school board. I'm really excited about this. Promotes school choice, strengthening charters and magnet school programs. Prevents that federal interference, as the chairman referenced, in private schools and homeschools. Allows funds in eligible school districts to follow the students to the schools that they attend. Also a very important point. So I'm thankful that the chairman took time to join us today. That's a quick look at Every Student Succeeds. We'll pass that this week and on to the president's desk. Thank you for joining us for Tune In, and we'll see you the next time. Thanks.